The evening sun painted the yard in shades of orange. I sat on the veranda, watching the shadows of the acacias crawl across the red earth. 75, an age when every sunset feels special. "Grandma." Tayo's voice made me start. My grandson ran out of the house, barefoot, disheveled, his eyes wide open. He ran as if something were chasing him. "What happened, dear?" I tried to smile, though my heart was already tightening. Tayo dashed up onto the veranda and stopped in front of me. He was breathing hard, his chest rising under his t-shirt. "Grandma, He licked his dry lips, rubbed his face with his palms. I saw Grandpa. At night, in the garden. I froze, the teacup suspended halfway to my lips. "You must have dreamed it," I said slowly, setting the cup down. My fingers clenched on the armrest by themselves. "Children often dream of—" "No." He grabbed my hand in both of his, hot and damp. I really wasn't asleep. I woke up to get some water and saw a light in the garden. I thought maybe thieves, so I went to check. A sharp pain slashed across my chest. "And what did you see?" Tayo looked away, staring at his bare feet. "They were standing under the baobab tree. Grandpa and—" He hesitated. "And Mom." Time stopped. Somewhere, a bird screamed. The leaves rustled. "Grandpa was holding her hands," Tayo said quietly, still not lifting his eyes. Then he hugged her. They stood like that for a long time, and then— He blushed, deep red. They kissed, like in the movies. Mom, Adaora. My son, Obasi's wife. I swallowed. My throat was dry as sand. "Are you sure it was your mother?" It was dark. Maybe it was. "I recognized her nightgown," he interrupted, looking up at me. "The white one, with flowers. The one you gave her for New Year's. And her hair was loose down to her shoulders. It was Mom, Grandma. I'm sure. The white gown with orchids. I had embroidered those flowers myself. For 3 months. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling. I quickly hid them under my apron. "All right, dear," I said softly, stroking his cheek. My fingers were cold as ice. "But let's not tell anyone about this, okay? It will be our little secret." Tayo frowned. "Why? Maybe we should—" "Maybe you misunderstood something." I cut him off, too quickly. "And if you start talking, people might think badly. We don't want to upset your mom and grandpa over a misunderstanding, do we?" He nodded slowly, uncertainly, and ran back into the house. I was left alone. Slowly, I turned my head toward the baobab tree, the ancient tree under which Kwame and I had shared our first kiss after the wedding, 50 years ago. Now he was kissing her? My hands clenched into fists. My nails dug into my palms until it hurt. Dinner passed as if through fog. I chewed without tasting anything. Kwame told Tayo a hunting story. Everyone laughed. Adaora moved quietly between the kitchen and the table, refilling water, silent as a shadow. I watched them both. Kwame didn't glance at Adaora in any special way. She didn't blush. Everything was normal. Too normal. But I remembered that morning, how they'd stood together in the kitchen, exchanged a glance, quick, frightened like startled birds. Adaora had smiled shyly. Kwame had reached toward her shoulder, then at the last moment picked up a cup instead. I hadn't thought anything of it then. Now every detail blazed with new light. After dinner, Kwame went out to smoke. I lay down without undressing. The window faced the garden, the baobab. He returned about 20 minutes later. I heard the familiar sounds. The splash of water, the rustle of fabric. He lay down beside me. The bed sagged. "Are you asleep?" he whispered. I didn't answer. My breathing stayed even and slow. He sighed and turned his back. We lay there, back to back. as we had for so many years. I counted the clock's ticks, 100, 200, 3. Then Kwame stirred. His breathing changed. I froze. A minute of silence. Then the blanket rustled. The bed creaked. He got up. My heart pounded as I listened. Kwame dressed quietly. The door opened, closed. He was gone. I jumped up and ran to the window. Moonlight flooded the garden. Kwame stood beneath the baobab, leaning against the trunk, staring at the house, waiting. I slipped into the hallway, barefoot, descended the stairs. Each step creaked, peeked through the back door. Kwame was still there. Then another figure emerged from the house, a woman, dressed in white, hair loose. Adaora. She walked slowly, looking around, reached the baobab. Kwame stepped forward to meet her. I followed, moved through the grass, keeping to the shadows, hiding behind the bushes. Their voices came softly. "It's dangerous," Adaora whispered, glancing back. "Tayo might wake up again if he—" I couldn't stand it anymore. Kwame's voice was hoarse. He reached out to her, but she stepped back. All day I'm near you, but I can't even look properly, can't touch you. He clenched his fists. It's unbearable. Adaora took a step toward him. He pulled her into his arms immediately, tightly, desperately. She pressed against his chest, wrapped her arms around his waist, buried her face in his shirt. They stood there for a long time, an eternity. Then Kwame lifted her chin gently with his fingers, leaned in, kissed her. My knees gave way. I clutched the tree for support. Pain pierced my chest, a knife between my ribs. What have we done? Adaora pulled away, running her palms over her face. Kwame, we can't go on like this. It's wrong. I know. He drew her back, holding her by the shoulders. But I can't live without you? I tried. I swear I tried. I can't. And Amara? She lifted her face to him. The moonlight fell on her wet cheeks. Your wife. She doesn't deserve this. Kwame brushed away her tears with his thumbs. He was silent for a long time. Then softly, almost in a whisper, I've stopped loving her. Long ago. Maybe I never truly did. But with you, his voice broke. With you, I finally understand what love really is. Real love. A branch cracked beneath me. Who's there? Kwame turned sharply, peering into the dark. I pressed myself to the ground. My heart was pounding so loudly it seemed to echo through the whole garden. Probably an animal. Adaora tugged on his hand. Her voice trembled. Let's go. If Amara... She's asleep. He glanced toward the house. I checked. Fast asleep. They disappeared deeper into the garden. I lay on the cold earth, staring at the black sky. 5 words spun in my head. I've stopped loving her. Long ago. When did he stop loving me? A year ago? 5? 10? Or had he never loved me at all? I went back into the house through the back door. My hands were shaking. I leaned against the wall, my chest tight. I couldn't breathe. I splashed cold water on my face, looked in the mirror above the sink, gray hair, wrinkles, old. When did Kwame stop seeing a woman in me? I climbed the stairs to our bedroom and lay down to wait. About 20 minutes later, he returned, undressed quietly, lay beside me. He smelled of night air and something sweet. Adaora's perfume. He sighed and fell asleep, just like that. Came back from her and slept beside me. I lay with my eyes open. Memories flickered in my mind. A year ago, I'd come down to the kitchen late at night, heard crying. Adaora sat at the table, her face in her hands. Obasi hadn't come again for Tayo's birthday. I hugged her. What happened, my daughter? Obasi, she sobbed, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. He called. Said he wouldn't come. Again. Why does he... Her voice broke. Why is he so cold? Am I a bad wife? No, dear. Obasi is just that way. He doesn't know how to love. Kwame entered the kitchen, stopped in the doorway, seeing his daughter-in-law in tears. His face darkened. He came closer slowly, knelt beside Adaora, took her hand, gently as if it were something fragile. Don't cry, he said softly. With his thumb, he stroked her knuckles. Please, Grandma and I will make Tayo the best birthday ever. I promise. Adaora looked up at him, her eyes red, wet, but grateful. Thank you, she whispered. You're both so kind to me. They looked at each other. 1 second, 2, 3. I stood beside them, thinking, what a kind man he is. Now I realized that was the moment. Something sparked between them that night, right before my eyes. 3 months ago, I found Adaora in our bedroom. She was gathering laundry, holding one of Kwame's shirts. I stopped in the doorway. She didn't see me. Adaora lifted the shirt to her face, closed her eyes, breathed in, slowly, deeply, pressed the fabric to her cheek with such tenderness. I cleared my throat. She flinched, dropped the shirt, turned sharply. Her face flushed crimson to the roots of her hair. Amara! I was just... She grabbed the shirt from the floor, crumpling it in her hands, just sorting the laundry, by color. Whites separate, colors apart. Of course, I smiled. Thank you. But something had stung me then. Jealousy? Suspicion? I buried it deep. I should have listened. I lay in the dark, sifting through memories. How many signs had I missed? How many glances, touches had I ignored? 3 years, Adaora had said in the garden. 3 years of lies. Tears streamed quietly down my cheeks. I didn't wipe them away. Beside me, Kwame breathed evenly, like a man without guilt. Morning came too soon. Kwame stirred, stretched, opened his eyes, looked at me. Good morning, my love, he said, just as he always did, as he had for 50 years. My love. The word cut like a knife. Good morning, I replied. My voice came out steady. I even smiled. Somehow strength had found its way back to me. He got up, got dressed, leaned down and kissed me on the cheek. Perfunctory, out of habit. His lips were dry, cold. Then he left. I stayed lying there, staring at the ceiling. Pretend, watch, collect facts. At breakfast, I sat in my usual place. Kwame opposite me, Adaora to the side, Tayo between us. Adaora looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her face pale. Adaora, you... Kwame leaned toward her, frowning. Are you all right? You look unwell. There was too much concern in his voice. Too much. Yes, just... She looked down at her plate, poking at the rice with her fork. A bit of a headache. Didn't sleep well. Maybe you should rest today? He reached out as if to touch her forehead, but stopped halfway. His fingers hovered in the air for a second, then lowered to the table. I'll help around the house. Handle everything. I watched them. The way he spoke, the way she blushed. Kwame's right, I cut in. My smile perfect. Rest, Adaora. I'll take care of everything. Adaora looked up at me, guilt and fear in her eyes. Her hands clenched on her knees under the table, and I saw her knuckles turn white. Thank you, Mama, she whispered. Her voice trembled on the word Mama. Tayo was talking about school, but I wasn't listening. I was watching. How Kwame passed her the salt and their fingers brushed. How she flinched, as if struck by lightning. How his hand lingered longer than necessary. How their eyes met. Quick, secret, fleeting. In that glance, there was everything. Love, fear, guilt. Adaora stood up, began clearing the table. Her hands trembled. A cup clinked against its saucer. Careful! Kwame jumped up, steadying her elbow. You'll drop it. Break it. Their faces were close, too close. Adaora recoiled, sharply as if burned, and fled to the kitchen. Kwame watched her go. For a long time, longing in his eyes, he didn't even notice me watching him. Then he turned to me, smiled, stiffly, falsely. Adaora's tired. We should help her more. Yes, I nodded. We should. Tayo ran off to play. Kwame stood, kissed my forehead, automatically, without thought. I'm going to the garden. Need to check the baobab. The bark looks strange. Want to see. The baobab. The tree where he had kissed her. All right, I said calmly. He left. I went to the window. Kwame stood beneath the baobab, his hand resting on the trunk, gently as though on the shoulder of a lover. He looked up into the branches. His lips moved, whispering something. What was he remembering? Her lips? Her touch? I closed my eyes. What should I do? Scream, accuse, throw him out, or find out the truth? All of it. Understand whether it was passion or love. The decision came on its own. I would watch, pretend, gather piece by piece, and then decide what to do. I opened my eyes, looked at Kwame by the baobab, 50 years together, and I realized I didn't know this man. After lunch, I found Tayo in the yard. He was playing with a wooden toy car under the acacia. I crouched beside him. My knees creaked. Tayo, dear, I called softly. Come here. He ran over and sat next to me. I put my arm around his shoulders. Do you remember what you told me? About Grandpa and your mom? He nodded. His eyes were wide, wary. Tell me again. What exactly did you see? Maybe you'll remember something more. Tayo frowned, biting his lower lip. I woke up. My throat was dry. I went to the kitchen for water, looked out the window. The light was on in the garden, near the baobab. And you went out there? Yes, very quietly, barefoot. I thought maybe someone was there. I crept closer and... He stopped, blushing. What were they doing? They were standing very close. Grandpa was holding Mom's hands like this. He showed me, fingers interlaced. Then he hugged her. They stood like that for a long time, and Mom put her head on his shoulder, and then he looked away. They kissed. My heart clenched. I stroked his hair. Did you hear what they said? A little, they whispered. Mom said something about dangerous. And Grandpa, he thought for a moment, chewing his lip. Grandpa said, I love you. I remember because it surprised me. He never says that to Grandma. 3 words, sharp as knives. When was the last time Kwame said them to me? Thank you, dear. I kissed the top of his head. My hands were trembling. I hid them in my apron. Remember, this is our secret. Don't tell anyone, not even Mom or Grandpa, all right? All right, Grandma. He ran off to play. I stayed sitting there staring at the baobab. I love you. He said it to her. That evening, Kwame and Adaora went to town. For groceries, they said. I stayed home with Tayo. When the car disappeared around the bend, I climbed to the bedroom. My heart pounded. In my ears, at my temples, in my throat. What was I looking for? Proof? Or the chance to be wrong? I opened the drawer on Kwame's side of the dresser. Shirts folded neatly. Socks, handkerchiefs, nothing. I slid my hand beneath the stack of shirts. My fingers brushed something. Paper. I drew it out, a small scrap folded into quarters. I unfolded it with trembling hands. Adaora's handwriting, rounded with little curls. I knew it. I'd seen her shopping lists before. Tonight, when everyone is asleep, I will wait. Please come. I need to be near you. A short note, but it said everything. I stood in the middle of the bedroom holding the scrap. My hands shook so badly the letters blurred. I will wait. How many such notes had there been? How many nights had they met while I slept? I folded the note slowly and hid it back. My fingers left damp marks on the paper. Tears had fallen and I hadn't even noticed. They returned an hour later. Voices below, Adaora's laughter, light, almost happy. When had she last laughed like that with Obasi? Never. I washed my face with cold water and went downstairs. They were unpacking the bags in the kitchen. "Amara," Kwame smiled, offering an orange. "We bought your favorite." "Look, ripe, juicy." I took the orange and looked at it, at the face beside me, familiar, intimate. 50 years I had woken up beside this man, and he lied. "Thank you," I said quietly. Adaora stood at the stove with her back to me, shoulders tense, the shoulder blades visible through a thin blouse. "Adaora," I called. She turned sharply, as if expecting a blow. Her eyes were guilty, fearful, her hands clenched into fists. "Yes, Mama." "You said your head hurt yesterday. How is it now?" She blinked several times. Yes, thank you. It's better now." She turned away quickly. Too quickly. I watched her back, how she chopped vegetables, movements sharp, nervous. The knife struck the board, loud, staccato. "Adaora, be careful," I said, stepping closer. "You'll cut yourself." Yes, of course," she answered, slowing. Her fingers whitened on the knife handle. Our eyes met for a second. In her look was everything. Fear, guilt, a plea. She knew I suspected something. She did not know how much. "Let me help," I said, taking the other knife and beginning to slice carrots beside her. We stood shoulder to shoulder, two women, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, wife and mistress. "Mama," Adaora whispered without raising her eyes. The knife froze in her hand. "Thank you for being kind to me. Always." Her voice trembled on the last words. "You are part of the family, Adaora," I replied, my tone even as I continued to cut. Neat slices one after another. "You always will be." She exhaled. Whether in relief or guilt, I could not tell. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. Something inside me broke then, because in her voice I heard not only guilt, I heard real pain. Maybe she was suffering too. That night I did not sleep. Kwame lay beside me, breathing evenly. I stared into the dark and thought of the note. Tonight. When everyone is asleep. Tonight. When? Yesterday. This night. Tomorrow. Maybe they met every night. I turned my head and looked at Kwame. His profile in the moonlight. Gray hair, furrowed brow. 77 years, an old man. But for Adaora, the man who had said, "I love you," I closed my eyes and tried to recall the last time I had truly felt love for him. Not habit, not attachment. Love. I could not. Perhaps our marriage had been dead for a long time and I had refused to admit it. Even so, that did not excuse them. Kwame sighed in his sleep and rolled onto his side. I watched his back. In the robe pocket hanging on the chair lay a note. I had taken it while they were downstairs. Tomorrow I would hide it in my secret place, with the other evidence I intended to collect. Because if this is a war, I will need weapons, even if each clue wounds me more than it wounds them. The next day, my sister Effia came, bright, loud, wrapped in a colorful dress. I was sitting on the veranda shelling beans when I heard her voice. "Amara!" "Sister." She climbed the steps and kissed me on both cheeks. Her perfume was sweet, cloying. She sat beside me, grabbed a handful of beans. "How are you?" "Fine." Effia was silent for a minute, shelling beans. Then she leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Amara, is everything all right with you all?" My hands froze. A bean slipped from my fingers. "What do you mean?" Effia turned toward me, looked straight into my eyes. Adaora's been different lately. Glowing, like a woman in love. I saw her at the market last week. She was humming to herself, smiling at strangers. Adaora, who's always so quiet, so sad. Something tightened in my chest. Maybe Obasi's become more attentive to her. Effia snorted, waved her hand. Obasi? That frozen stick of ice? She shook her head. I doubt it. She went quiet again, watching me. Long, squinting. You know something. I don't know anything. Amara, she said, laying a hand on my shoulder, squeezing gently. I'm your sister. I can see it. You haven't been sleeping. Circles under your eyes to your chin. You've lost weight. Your hands are shaking. What's going on? I wanted to tell her, to spill everything out. But Effia loves gossip. By evening, the whole village would know. Everything's fine. I brushed her hand away. Just tired. The heat. Effia sighed, stood, smoothed her dress. All right. But if anything happens, you know where to find me. She leaned down and whispered in my ear, Take care of your family, Amara. Sometimes danger is closer than it seems. Much closer. She left. I stayed on the veranda. Beans spilled from my hands. She knows. Effia knows something. That evening, Kwame got ready to go out. To a friend's, he said. Adaora was putting Tayo to bed. I sat alone in the kitchen, drinking tea that had already gone cold. Then I saw it. Kwame's phone, lying on the table. Just there, forgotten. I stared at it for several seconds. My heart thudded so hard it echoed in my temples, in my ears. This is wrong, I thought. It's a violation. But my hand moved on its own. I picked it up. The screen lit up. A new message. From A. I touched the screen with a trembling finger. The message opened. Adaora wrote that she missed him, that she wanted to be near him. Now, tomorrow, always. And at the end, 3 words that made my heart twist. She loved him. The pain struck so sharply I had to close my eyes. I opened their chat, scrolled upward, months of messages, maybe years, hundreds of them. I scrolled with shaking hands, reading fragments. Adaora wrote that he was her happiness, that she couldn't wait for the night, that she was counting the minutes until their next meeting, that Obasi hadn't come home again, that she felt so lonely, and only Kwame understood her. I kept reading. Each word was a knife. Then I stumbled on an old message. I looked at the date. 3 years ago. When it all began, Adaora wrote that she couldn't go on, that living with Obasi was unbearable, that he frightened her, that the night before he had grabbed her arm so hard it left bruises. She was afraid of him. I froze. Obasi hit her? My son? I kept scrolling, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the phone. Kwame had replied that he would protect her, that she wasn't alone, that he was there, always there, that Obasi would never hurt her again. Further down, Adaora clarified, no, Obasi didn't strike her, but his words, his looks. When he stared at her, she felt like a thing, not a person, dirty, unwanted. Kwame replied that she deserved better, that she deserved love, real love, not that frozen emptiness. Adaora reminded him, but you're married to Amara. It's wrong. We can't. I can't. And Kwame wrote back. I closed my eyes but forced myself to read it. He said his heart no longer listened to reason, that it had already chosen her. I set the phone down on the table. My hands were numb. This wasn't just betrayal. Kwame had protected her from Obasi, from my own son, and protection had become love. Or maybe it had been love from the very beginning. I picked the phone up again, opened the photos. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop. Adaora in the garden, smiling, radiant, hair loose. Kwame had clearly taken the photo. Adaora in the kitchen, cooking something, turning toward the camera, laughing, happy. Dozens of such photos, maybe hundreds. The last one, their hands, fingers entwined, in the blurred background, our baobab tree. I closed my eyes, set the phone back on the table, stood up. My legs gave way beneath me. I held on to the back of the chair. Footsteps on the veranda. Kwame was back. I quickly sat down again, picked up my cold tea, tried to make my face calm, hid my hands under the table so he wouldn't see them shaking. Kwame walked in, smiling. "Amara, you're still awake?" "Just finishing my tea." I nodded toward the phone. "You forgot this." He snatched it up. Fast, abrupt, shoved it into his pocket as if afraid I might see something. Too late. I had already seen everything. "Thank you," he said, running a hand over his face. I was worried I'd lost it somewhere. "Someone messaged you?" I asked, looking straight into his eyes. He froze, just for a second, a long second. "No," he lied. "No one wrote." "All right," I said, standing. "I'm going to bed." I walked past him, paused in the doorway, not turning around. "Kwame, were you at your friend's?" "Yes, of course. With old Joseph. How is he?" "In good health?" "Yes, fine." We were reminiscing. About the old days, he coughed. When we were young ourselves. Lies. I could hear them in every word, in the hesitation, the cough. He hadn't been to any Joseph. I lay in bed listening to his footsteps downstairs, pacing back and forth, then a faint sound, the low hum of a phone. He was texting her right now, while I lay here in our bed. Fragments of what I'd read echoed in my head. Obasi frightens her. Kwame protects her. The heart has chosen. Maybe Kwame and Adaora weren't my enemies. Maybe they were victims. He, an old man aching for love that had long since left our marriage. She, a woman trying to escape a cold husband. Or was I just inventing excuses because the truth cut too deeply to bear? They betrayed me, both of them, and no reason could justify it. 3 days passed after that night, 3 endless days of pretending. I smiled when I wanted to scream, cooked food I couldn't swallow, spoke in a calm voice while everything inside me was tearing apart. But the worst were the nights. Every night I lay beside Kwame, listening to his breathing, waiting. Would he get up? Would he go to her again? Twice he had risen. The first time to the bathroom, I heard water splash. Then he returned. The second to the kitchen. For water, he said later. Or maybe that was what I told myself. By the 4th night, something inside me snapped. I couldn't just lie there wondering anymore. Midnight had long passed, but sleep wouldn't come. I lay in the dark, afraid to move. Every muscle tense to the point of pain, as if I were holding some invisible weight across my shoulders. Beside me, Kwame breathed, steady, but there was something guarded in the rhythm, a quiet tautness, like a string pulled too tight. He wasn't asleep. I knew it, felt it. My heart was beating so loudly I thought he could hear every pulse in the silence. I forced myself to breathe slowly, evenly. In, out, in, out. The way one breathes in sleep, but inside everything clenched tight, my throat constricted. Then he stirred. I felt each of his movements with my whole body. The dip of the mattress as he sat up, the pause as he listened. The air between us thickened with tension. Don't breathe, don't move, sleep. The bed shifted. He stood up. I heard the rustle of fabric as he pulled on his trousers in the dark. The sound of the zipper sliced through my nerves like a knife on glass. The door creaked softly. He stopped in the doorway. I could feel his gaze on me, hot, heavy. A second stretched into eternity. Then footsteps moved away toward the stairs. I opened my eyes to the dark. My hands were trembling. I clenched them into fists under the blanket, pressed my nails into my palms until it hurt. I counted heartbeats instead of seconds, 20, 30, 40. I pushed the blanket aside, slowly, carefully, afraid the bed would betray me with a creak. Sat up. The room spun, from fear or because I hadn't eaten properly in 3 days. The cold floor bit at my bare feet. I rose and went to the window, each step an effort, my legs weak and unsteady. I pulled the curtain aside with trembling fingers. Kwame was walking across the yard toward the garden, a silhouette bathed in moonlight, so familiar after 50 years. He stopped beneath the baobab, took out a cigarette. The red ember flared in the dark, lighting his face for a second. He was waiting for her, waiting again. Something broke inside me. The last fragile thread of hope, that it was all a mistake, that I'd imagined it, that Tayo had been wrong. I grabbed a dark shawl, my hands shaking so badly I had to tie the knot 3 times, slipped out the back door into the night. The grass beneath my feet was cold, wet with dew, every step a needle of ice. I crept through the garden, hugging the shadows, freezing behind each bush. My heart pounded in my throat, in my temples, in my fingertips. I reached the thicket near the baobab and crouched. My knees cracked, loud, treacherously loud. I froze, holding my breath. Kwame stood only a few steps away, smoking. He drew nervously, rapidly, hand to lips, down, hand to lips, down. Ash fell from his trembling fingers. He kept glancing back at the house, then into the darkness of the garden. I saw his face in the moonlight, and I saw something I had never noticed before. Hunger in his eyes, impatience, desire. When had he last looked at me like that? The door of the house opened. Adaora stepped out onto the veranda, a white blur in the darkness. She paused, glanced around. Then she ran. Slowly at first, then faster, almost flying the last few steps. Kwame dropped the cigarette, didn't even put it out. He stepped forward with his arms outstretched. She threw herself into his embrace with such force he staggered back, wrapped her arms around his neck, pressed her whole body against him, desperately, like someone drowning clutching at a lifeline. He held her so tightly she seemed to disappear in his arms, buried his face in her hair, inhaled, deep, greedy, as if it wasn't air he was breathing, but life itself. I watched them, and something inside me was slowly breaking, not sharp pain, dull, crushing, as if iron clamps were closing around my chest. They stood there in silence, swaying slightly together, holding on to each other as though the world had vanished, leaving only this, only them. Then Adaora pulled back, just a little, just enough space for a breath between them. She looked into his face, her trembling fingers tracing his cheek, gently, like touching something sacred. "Kwame, we need to—" Her voice broke halfway through. She swallowed, tried again. "We need to talk." Seriously, something in her tone made me tense even more. "About what?" he asked, taking her hand, the one on his cheek, and pressing it to his lips, eyes closed. "Obasi called today." She turned away, but he gently turned her back by the shoulders, carefully but firmly. He's coming the day after tomorrow." Kwame froze. I saw his shoulders stiffen, his fingers tighten on her arms. "So soon?" "Yes, and he—" She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. Her words came out between sobs, distorted. "He said he's taking Tayo back to the city, for good." "What?" Kwame grabbed her shoulders, shook her once, sharply. "He can't. He has no right." "He does." Tears streamed down her cheeks, glistening in the moonlight. "He's the father. He said, I'm a bad mother, that Tayo needs a real father, a man's discipline, that here in the village—" Her voice broke in half. The boy is going wild. Kwame pulled her against him so abruptly she gasped. He held her tight, her head pressed to his shoulder, stroking her back, fast, frantic. He won't take him. Do you hear me? I won't allow it. How? She sobbed into his shirt, clutching the fabric in her fists. How will you stop him? He's the father. He has rights. The law is on his side. To hell with the law if it's cruel. Kwame's voice was quiet, but every word hit like a blow. We'll find a way. I swear to you, we'll find a way. Adaora lifted her face, wet, contorted with tears and fear. I'm so afraid, she whispered, her voice filled with helplessness so raw it made even me falter. I'm afraid of Obasi. Afraid he'll find out about us. If he finds out... He won't, Kwame murmured, running his hands through her hair, down her back, over her shoulders, as if they couldn't stop moving. And if he does? She looked up at him, eyes wide. You know what he's like. Cold, merciless. He'll take Tayo just to punish me. He's capable of that. Kwame held her even tighter. I saw the whiteness of his knuckles. I'll protect you. You and Tayo. I swear it. On everything I have. They fell silent, stood entwined, swaying gently under the night wind like a single tree. Then Adaora whispered, so softly it was almost lost to the air. Sometimes I think, maybe we should stop? She stepped back just enough to look into his eyes. Before it's too late? Before anyone else gets hurt? Kwame cupped her face in his hands, so tenderly as if holding something fragile. He brushed away her tears with his thumbs, slow as if time itself had paused. Is that what you want? To stop? The silence that followed was heavy, full of unspoken struggle. Duty warring with desire, guilt with need. No, she breathed at last, the word sounding like a cry of despair. God, I don't want to. But it's wrong. Amara. She's a kind woman, a good one, and we betray her every day, every night. I know, he said, pressing his forehead to hers, eyes closed, lips trembling. Every morning I wake up knowing it. But I can't stop. I've tried. God knows I've tried. I can't live without you. And I can't, she whispered, her fingers clutching his shirt until the fabric stretched tight. I've tried. I can't. They kissed, slowly, tenderly, desperately, as if it were the last kiss on earth. I turned away. I couldn't watch anymore. Tears choked me. I clamped my hand over my mouth, bit into my skin to keep from crying out. A crack. A branch snapped under my hand. I hadn't even noticed I was gripping it. Who's there? Kwame turned sharply, his whole body tensed. I froze, held my breath, pressed my face into the cold, wet earth, feeling my heartbeat, in my throat, in my temples, everywhere. Probably an animal. Adaora grabbed his sleeve, tugging at him. Her voice shook. Let's go. Please, if anyone sees us... Kwame kept staring into the darkness, straight toward where I hid. He narrowed his eyes, took a step forward. I pressed myself into the ground until the cold seeped into my bones. Each second stretched into eternity. Let's go, Adaora repeated, pulling at him with both hands. Kwame, please. He stood still a moment longer, searching, sensing, then slowly nodded. They walked deeper into the garden, toward the far trees, where it was darker. I stayed there, shaking, from cold, from fear, from everything I had just seen and heard. Obasi would come in 2 days to take Tayo, and Kwame had promised to protect them from his own son, from my son. We'll find a way, he said. What way? What were they planning? I rose slowly, holding onto the tree for balance. My legs wouldn't obey me. The ground seemed to sway beneath my feet. I walked back toward the house. Every step hurt, in my chest, my legs, my heart, up the stairs, into bed, pulled the blanket to my chin, but the cold wouldn't leave. It had settled deep inside me. I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned from not blinking. Obasi would come, my cold, hard son. I remembered the messages. He frightens me. Bruises on my arms. Is he really like that? Or is Adaora exaggerating? Justifying herself? I didn't know my son, didn't know my husband, didn't know my daughter-in-law, didn't know who to believe in this world of lies. Amara doesn't deserve this, she said in the garden. A drop of remorse, something human, but too little, far too little. I closed my eyes, and the decision came on its own. Clear, cold. When Obasi arrives, I'll watch, observe, see what he's like with them. If he's cruel, I'll stand by her. If she lies, I'll defend my son. But until then, silence. And gathering truth, piece by piece from an ocean of deceit. The next day felt strange. Everyone pretended things were normal, but the tension hung in the air, thick, tangible, like the pressure before a storm. Adaora was making lunch, and I watched her from the kitchen doorway. Her hands trembled. The knife kept slipping from her fingers, clattering dully against the cutting board. She picked it up, dropped it again. Then she cut herself, a sharp cry. The knife fell, blood dripped onto the board. One drop, then another, bright red against pale wood. Adaora! Kwame was in the living room, but he leapt up so fast it was as if he'd been waiting for it. He rushed into the kitchen, grabbed her hand. I saw it all, standing unseen in the doorway. Let me see. He turned her palm toward the light, frowning. It's deep. Needs rinsing. He led her to the sink, turned on the water, held her hand under the stream. With one hand, while the other slipped around her waist, pulled her close. It's all right, he murmured, kissing the crown of her head. We'll bandage it. Adaora leaned back against him, eyes closed. I'm so nervous, she whispered. My hands shake. I can't even hold a knife properly. I know, he said softly, stroking her hair with his free hand. It's because of tomorrow. Yes, she looked at her hand under the water. The blood ran away in pale pink rivulets. When Obasi comes, everything will fall apart. Kwame turned off the water, took a clean towel, wrapped her finger, gently, carefully, tied a small knot. It won't fall apart, he said, turning her toward him, holding her by the shoulders. I won't let it. They stood so close there was no air between them. I stepped back quietly. They didn't see me, didn't hear me. They existed only for each other. I went out onto the veranda and sat in a chair, my hands clenched around the armrests. Tomorrow. Obasi will come tomorrow. That afternoon I found Tayo in the yard. He was sitting under a tree, hugging his knees, staring at the ground. What's wrong, my dear? I sat down beside him. My knees cracked with age. Tayo lifted his sad eyes to me. Papa's coming tomorrow. You're not happy? I asked, though I already knew the answer. He stayed silent for a while, chewing on his lower lip, as he always did when thinking about something hard. Papa's always angry, Grandma, he yells at Mama. At me, too. Says I'm... His voice trembled. Says I'm a bad boy. My heart tightened. I put my arm around his shoulders. Why does he say that? Because I'm not like he wants me to be. Tayo buried his face against my side. He wants me to be strong. Never cry, never be afraid. But I'm scared of him, Grandma. Really scared. I stroked his head, his soft curls warm under my palm. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Grandpa's here. We won't let anyone hurt you. But inside, I knew. Kwame protected Tayo not only as a grandfather, he was protecting the son of the woman he loved. Tayo looked up at me. Will you protect Mama too? From Papa? The question caught me off guard. I looked into his trusting eyes and didn't know what to say. Would I protect Adaora? The woman who was betraying me with my husband From my own son? We'll see, I said at last. Tomorrow we'll see. That evening I heard voices in the garden. The sun hadn't yet set. Still light, but they thought I was asleep after lunch. I went to the window, opened it quietly, listened. Kwame and Adaora were standing beneath the baobab. We can't go on like this, Kwame was saying. When Obasi comes tomorrow, he'll know. He always senses things. We'll be careful. Adaora folded her arms around herself, drawing inward. Like always. He won't notice. Adaora, he wants to take Tayo. Kwame stepped closer, gripping her shoulders. If he suspects anything between us, he'll use it. He'll call you immoral, say you're unfit to raise a child, and the court will give Tayo to him. I know, she shouted, jerking away. You think I don't understand. I think about it every second. Kwame approached her again, slowly, carefully, as if approaching a frightened animal, took her hands in his. I spoke with a lawyer 2 days ago. I went to the city. Adaora froze. A lawyer? Kwame, you... Shh. He glanced toward the house. Yes. I asked about a mother's rights, about whether we can... And what did he say? He said that if we can prove Obasi's cruelty, the court will let Tayo stay with you. But we need evidence. Your word alone isn't enough. Adaora shook her head, her hair coming loose. I have no proof. The bruises are long gone. There are no witnesses. I'm a witness, Kwame said, gripping her hands tighter. I've seen how he treats you. I can testify in court. They won't believe you, she gave a bitter little laugh. You're his father. They'll say you're on my side because... She didn't finish. Because I love you, Kwame said quietly. Silence. There's another way, he said after a moment. A radical one. What way? Kwame hesitated then. You could leave. With Tayo, tomorrow morning before he arrives. Go to my brother's, in the neighboring region. Obasi won't find you right away. Adaora stepped back, looking at him in horror. Run away? Kwame, that will make everything worse. He'll accuse me of kidnapping my own child. He won't if we say you've gone to visit a sick aunt. Kwame spoke faster now, caught up in his own plan. An emergency trip. We'll buy some time, while the lawyer gathers evidence of abuse. And Amara... Adaora wrapped her arms around herself. What will you tell her? Kwame froze. I saw the tension ripple through his back. I'll tell her the truth. Part of it. That Obasi is dangerous to Tayo. That the boy needs protection. But not the whole truth, Adaora said bitterly. You won't tell her about us. No, he admitted simply. The silence that followed was heavy as lead. I'm tired of lying, Kwame, Adaora said, rubbing her temples. Tired of hiding, of deceiving, of being afraid every second. So am I. He stepped forward, pulled her into his arms. But we have no choice. Not yet. Adaora pressed her face to his chest. And later? What then? When Obasi finds out? When Amara finds out? I don't know, he murmured into her hair. I honestly don't know. But right now, what matters is Tayo. Protecting him. Everything else we'll deal with later. I stood by the window, fingers digging into the windowsill. They were planning to take Tayo away, to deceive Obasi and me. I'll tell her the truth. But not the whole truth. My whole life for years now had been just that. Not the whole truth. Half-truths. Lies. I moved away from the window, lay down on the bed without undressing, stared at the ceiling. Obasi would come tomorrow. My son. Cold, perhaps cruel. That's what they said. But he's my child. I bore him, nursed him, raised him. Had I really not seen what he'd become? I thought of his childhood. Obasi had always been serious, never laughed like other children, never cried either. Kwame had been proud. He's becoming a real man, strong. perhaps too strong. So strong that strength hardened into cruelty. Was it our fault, mine and Kwame's? Or was he simply born that way? Tomorrow I would find out. Tomorrow I'd see my son again, and I'd know where the truth lay. On the side of the son who might be a tyrant, or the daughter-in-law who betrayed me every night. An impossible choice. But I would have to choose. The sound of an engine pulled me from a restless half-sleep. My heart plunged. Too early. Too sudden. I jumped to my feet, legs weak, and ran to the window. My fingers trembled as I pulled back the curtain. A black Jeep rolled into the yard, throwing up clouds of dust. Obasi, my son. And in that instant, I realized I was afraid to see him. I went downstairs, pulling a robe over my nightdress. Kwame was already on the veranda, stiff as a wire, fists clenched so tight his knuckles were white. The car door opened. Obasi stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark suit, and I saw a stranger. When had my boy turned into this stone statue? Father. He nodded to Kwame. No smile, no trace of warmth. Obasi, Kwame replied just as coldly. My son turned to me. He walked over, leaned down, brushed his lips against my cheek, formally, like to a stranger. The touch lasted less than a second, empty of everything. Mother. I hugged him, the way I once hugged him as a child, pulled him close. But he stood motionless, arms hanging limp. He didn't hug me back, didn't even flinch. Something broke inside me. Where is Adaora? He asked, and I flinched at the ice in his voice. At that moment, she appeared in the doorway. She froze when she saw him, her face drained of color, her hands clenched instinctively as if to ward off a blow. Obasi, she whispered, and there was such fear in her voice that my heart clenched. He stared at her for a long time, coldly, studying her like an entomologist observing a butterfly pinned to a board. Adaora, he said at last, you've lost weight. She flinched at the sound of his voice. Yes, I suppose. Nervous? He took a step toward her. She stepped back, not by choice but by instinct. He stopped. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe? But it vanished at once. Where's Tayo? He asked sharply. He's still asleep. It's early. She twisted her fingers. Wake him up. I want to see my son. But I said, wake him up. His voice seared like boiling water. Adaora flinched, her whole body recoiled as if from a slap. She turned and almost ran into the house. I looked at Kwame, his fists clenched so tightly the bones creaked, his jaw twitching. The fury in his eyes frightened me. I thought he might actually lunge at his son. Obasi turned to him. Father, we need to talk. Alone. They went into the living room. I stayed, but I could hear every word, each one hitting me like a stone. I'm taking Tayo to the city, Obasi said, his voice a verdict. What? Kwame's voice cracked. My son needs discipline. A real education. Here, he's going wild. He's happy here. He's a child. Happy? Obasi's voice burned with bitterness. Soft, weak, tearful. That's what you call good? Obasi --. Men don't cry, father. You taught me that. Or have you forgotten? Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. And Adaora? Kwame said at last. Adaora? Something wavered in my son's voice. She's weak. Spoils him. Turns him into a coward. She's a good mother. You defend her. Obasi's tone sharpened. Too fiercely. I wonder why. The pause stretched. I didn't breathe. She's my daughter-in-law, Kwame said finally. The mother of my grandson. Of course, Obasi replied, his voice dripping disbelief. Just a daughter-in-law. He knew, or suspected. He sensed something. Adaora came out with Tayo, the boy sleepy, frightened, hiding behind his mother. Obasi crouched down. "Tayo, come here." Tayo didn't move. He clung to his mother's skirt, his knuckles white. "I said, come here." Obasi's voice hardened. I saw Tayo flinch, slowly, as if, walking to his execution, he let go of her skirt and went to his father. Obasi grabbed him by the chin, roughly, without tenderness, turned his face to the light, inspecting him like a faulty product. "You've grown soft, pale, thin. Have you been crying?" Tayo said nothing. His lips trembled. "Answer me when I'm talking to you." "Yes," the boy blurted. "I fell, scraped my knee." "And you cried?" Obasi straightened, his voice filled with contempt. "Cried over a scratch?" "Men don't cry, Tayo." "He's a child." Adaora couldn't hold back. She stepped forward. Obasi turned to her slowly, looked at her in such a way that she recoiled. "That's exactly why I'm taking him." "You're making him weak. Pack your things. We leave tomorrow." "No." The cry tore from her chest. "Obasi, please, he's all I have." She rushed toward him, grasped his hand in both of hers. He yanked it away, and so sharply that she stumbled back. She recoiled as though struck. I saw it. The terror in her eyes, the way her hands pressed to her chest, shielding herself. But he hadn't hit her. He had only pulled away. Where is the line between harshness and cruelty? That evening, I went out onto the veranda. Obasi stood by the railing, smoking, his back taut, his shoulders hunched. "Obasi," I said quietly, "talk to me." "About what, Mother?" He didn't turn. "About Tayo." "Do you really mean to take him?" "Yes, it's decided." "And Adaora?" He took a long, deep drag, like a drowning man taking one last breath. "Adaora can visit, see her son, but live with me." His voice broke for a moment. "She won't." "Why?" He turned then, and I saw his eyes. Pain, such raw pain that I wanted to look away. "Because she doesn't love me, Mother," he said simply, almost casually, as if talking about the weather. But his hands trembled as he flicked the ash. "She never loved me." My breath caught. "Obasi." "I'm not blind," he gave a bitter smile. "I've always known. She married me for convenience. Her family needed money. I paid their debts, got myself a wife. A transaction, clean and simple." His voice shook. "But I hoped. I thought that, in time, maybe she'd grow to love me. I tried, Mother. I gave her everything. The house, the money, everything I could." "But not yourself," I said softly. "Not your warmth. Not your heart." He turned away, staring into the dark. "I don't know how," he said, "and you know that. Father taught me. Feelings are weakness, so I grew up like that, made of stone." "And the bruises on Tayo's arm?" He flinched, as if struck. "I didn't mean to." His voice barely a whisper. "I just grabbed him harder than I thought." He screamed that he's afraid of me, afraid of his own father, that... He covered his face with his hand. That tore me apart. "You scare him, son." "I don't want to." He turned to me, pleading in his eyes. "I want to protect him. Teach him to be strong, so life doesn't break him. Strength isn't the same as harshness." "Then what is it?" He looked at me like a lost child. "Tell me. What is it?" I had no answer. He sighed, straightened, and the stone mask returned. "Tayo will come with me. That's final." He went inside. I stayed there, alone. Obasi wasn't a monster. He was my broken boy, a man who never learned how to love. But he was my son, and those two, they were deceiving him, and me. God, whose side am I on in this war? Night, sleepless, suffocating. Obasi snored in the guest room. Kwame beside me breathed evenly, pretending to sleep. I could feel it. We were both pretending. Then he moved. I shut my eyes. The bed shifted. He rose, dressed, left. I went to the window, heart pounding in my temples. 3 figures under the baobab, Kwame, Adaora, and a third, a colorful headscarf, Ifia. Something inside me tore and fell apart. My sister, helping them. I slipped into the night, keeping to the shadows. My heart beat so loud I thought they'd hear it. Reached the bushes. "Do it now!" Efia's voice, sharp, urgent. "Tomorrow Obasi will take Tayo away." "I can't steal my son," Adaora sobbed, pressing her hands to her face. "It's not stealing. It's protection," Kwame said, wrapping his arms around her. "I won't let Obasi take him." "And Amara?" Adaora looked toward the house, her lips trembling. "What will we tell her?" "Tell her the truth," Effia said firmly. "Ask for her help." "She'll hate us," Kwame's shoulders sagged. "I've lied to her for 3 years." "Or she'll understand," Effia said. "Amara is wise. We've been lying to her for 3 years." Adaora covered her face, her shoulders shaking. "How can I ask for her help?" "Because she loves Tayo." "I destroyed her trust." Kwame turned away, his voice cracking. "Betrayed her." "For what?" "For love," Adaora whispered. "We never planned this." "Love doesn't excuse betrayal." Kwame's fists clenched. The silence was crushing. "You're both suffering," Effia sighed, "but that doesn't give you the right." "I know," Kwame shouted, spinning toward her. "Do you think I don't know?" I stood behind the bushes, each word striking like a stone. But something inside me was shifting, changing. A twig snapped beneath my foot. "Who's there?" Enough. Enough hiding. I stepped out of the shadows. All 3 of them froze. "Amara!" Effia's face went pale as chalk. Adaora clutched at Kwame. Kwame stared at me, horror in his eyes. I walked toward them, my legs heavy as lead. Stopped close enough to see their faces. "I know," I said quietly. "I've known for a week." What do you know?" Kwame licked his lips. "Everything. Since the day Tayo told me." Adaora let out a sob, tears streaming down her face. "Amara, please forgive us." Kwame took a step forward, reaching out a hand. I stopped him with a gesture. "Not now. First tell me, what are you planning?" Adaora's eyes darted to mine, confused, frightened. "We wanted to protect Tayo, take him away from Obasi." "By lying to me?" "Yes," Kwame admitted, lowering his hand. "We didn't know if you'd believe us." "Believe what?" My throat tightened. That my son is cruel? Or that my husband is sleeping with my daughter-in-law? The silence was deafening. "How long have you known?" I turned to Ifia. 6 months, she said quietly. "I found out by accident. I wanted to tell you, but Obasi really is cold, harsh. I chose to help Tayo." "By betraying me?" "Not to betray," Effia lifted her chin. "To protect your grandson. And you, too." I looked at the 3 of them. "Tell me everything," I said, my voice steady though I trembled inside. "From the beginning. No lies. If you want me to help." You'll help?" Adaora's disbelief sounded almost like fear. "I haven't decided," I said, sitting down on the bench. My legs felt weak beneath me. "But first, the truth. All of it." Kwame sank to his knees, took my hands. I didn't pull away, though I wanted to. "Amara, speak. How did it start? When? Why?" He closed his eyes, exhaled, long, heavy as if before a fall, and began. Kwame knelt before me, the moonlight glinting off his gray hair. He looked old, broken. It began 3 years ago, he said, his voice rough, fractured. Obasi left Adaora here. I watched her suffer. She cried at night. And you, he lifted his eyes to me, pain in every line of his face. You were so far away. We lived together, but we were strangers. I clenched my hands. The truth cut deep. One night I saw bruises on her arm, he swallowed. Obasi had grabbed her too hard. I took her hand to look closer and felt something I hadn't felt for you in years. I was terrified. I let go. But the feeling stayed. Adaora sank down beside him, tears streaming. 15 years I lived with Obasi, tried to be a good wife. But he never looked at me with love. I was a transaction. He paid my family's debts and got me. Like property. Her voice shook. When I moved here, it was the first time I felt alive. Kwame talked to me, just talked, like to a person. Obasi never did. When did it turn into love? I forced myself to ask. A year ago. Kwame covered his face with his hands. Obasi came and said terrible things to her. She cried in the garden. I held her to comfort her. She lifted her face, and I saw in her eyes something I hadn't seen in yours for many years. What? Need. The need to be loved. The silence pressed down on us. I kissed her, he said, each word a wound, then pulled away, apologized. But she kissed me back, and I knew I was in love. At 74, for the first time in my life, truly. Adaora took his hand. I fell in love too. I didn't want to. I fought it. But Kwame was everything Obasi wasn't. Gentle. He saw me, not as the mother of an heir, as a woman. And for 3 years, you lied to everyone, I said, each word heavy as stone. Yes. Kwame bowed his head. Unforgivable. I looked at their intertwined hands. You love each other. Yes. And I was in the way. No. Kwame caught my hands. Amara, you're my wife, the mother of my son. I'm a habit, I said, pulling free. Part of your life. But not your love. The silence that followed was its own confession. Effia sat beside me. Amara, everyone is suffering, she said softly. You, Kwame in a loveless marriage, Adaora with a cold husband, even Obasi. So what am I supposed to do? My voice broke. Forgive. Forget. Decide, Effia said, squeezing my hand. What matters more, punishing them or saving Tayo? Tayo, the only innocent one. What were you planning? I asked, exhausted. To take Adaora and Tayo to my brothers, Kwame said, while the lawyer prepares the documents. And me? I would have told you part of the truth. That Obasi is dangerous to Tayo. But not about us, Adaora said bitterly. No. I stood, began to pace, my legs trembling. Obasi isn't a monster. He's cold, broken. But Tayo should be with his mother. I stopped. Your plan is wrong. It's built on lies. Then what? Kwame rose too. I took a deep breath. There's another way. Honesty, complete honesty, with Obasi, with everyone. Tell Obasi. Adaora turned pale. About us? Yes. He'll kill us. He won't. He'll be shattered, like I was. But he won't kill. The silence was crushing. Amara, what are you planning? Kwame asked. I looked at him. I've been preparing for this for a week. Since the day Tayo told me. I wasn't just watching, I was acting. They all stared at me. You were planning something, Effia whispered. Yes. What did you do? Kwame asked, barely audible. I smiled, sadly, wearily. Tomorrow you'll all find out. Morning. I set the table on the veranda. My hands moved automatically, though inside everything trembled. Then I called them all. Obasi came out first, scowling, ready to leave. When he saw the table set, his brow furrowed. Mother, what's this meeting for? We need to go. Sit down, I said, pointing to a chair. My voice came out steadier than I'd expected. He frowned but sat. Kwame came next, his face gray, eyes red, sleepless. Adaora followed, pale as death, her hands shaking. Effia arrived from her yard. Tayo was left inside, playing, unaware of anything. What's going on? Obasi looked around. Why does everyone look so grim? I sat at the head of the table, rested my hands on the wood, clasped my fingers so the trembling wouldn't show. Obasi, you're not taking Tayo today. He straightened, tense as a spring. What? You're not taking him. Not today, not ever. Obasi gave a cold, humorless laugh. Mother, since when do you decide for me? He's my son, and she's my daughter-in-law. And he's my grandson, my family. I looked straight into his eyes, and I've just learned how you treat them. His face paled. What have you learned? I pulled a folded paper from my pocket, my hands miraculously steady, and opened it. A list. Bruises on Adaora's arm 3 years ago. Bruises on Tayo's wrist a week ago. Your words to her, you're useless. The only thing you did right was bear an heir. Your absences, 1 night a month. Your coldness, your silence, your emotional cruelty. Obasi went even paler. The knuckles of his hands whitened on the table's edge. Who told you these lies? No one lied. I laid the list on the table. I saw it myself, heard it, collected the pieces for a week. A week? He stared at me, disbelief in his voice. You spied on me. I investigated, I said, when I found out something and started looking for the truth. His fists tightened until his skin went white. And what are you trying to say? I'm saying you're cruel, Obasi. Not physically, emotionally. You break people with your words, with your coldness, your control. I provide for them, he shouted, standing up so hard his chair clattered to the floor. With money, I said calmly, not with love. Adaora was for status, Tayo, for legacy. You don't see them as people. You see them as roles. I won't listen to this. He turned toward the door. Sit down, I said. Softer, but sharper. He froze, slowly turned back. Something in my tone made him obey. He sat down again. I turned to Adaora. She was trembling all over, bracing herself. Adaora, tell Obasi about the bruises, the words, everything. I can't, she whispered, shaking. You can. It's time. Adaora took a deep breath, her chest heaving as if after a long run. Obasi, I've been your wife for 15 years, but only on paper. You married me to buy my family's debts. I tried to be a good wife, but you... Her voice broke. You never looked at me as a woman. I was a function, to bear an heir, keep the house, not shame you. Obasi's face was stone, but I saw the vein pulse in his temple. You left bruises. She rolled up her sleeve, showing a faint scar. Not on purpose, just not knowing your own strength when you were angry. You told me I was useless, that my only worth was Tayo. And Tayo... Tears spilled down her face. You terrify him. He's afraid of you. Enough! Obasi cut her off. His voice trembled. Enough! But I continued. Obasi, you didn't become like this alone. Your father raised you on harshness, taught you that emotion was weakness, to be strong, unfeeling. You learned too well. You became stone. I turned to Kwame, his head bowed. Kwame, that's your fault too. I know, he forced out. You both broke Obasi, and he broke his own family. The silence that followed was crushing. Obasi looked down at his hands. What do you want, Mother? The truth. From everyone. I rose and walked over to Kwame and Adaora. Now it's your turn. Tell Obasi. Adaora went pale as chalk. Amara, no. Yes, he has to know. Kwame stood, his face ashen, lips trembling. Obasi, Adaora and I? He couldn't finish. What about you and Adaora? Obasi's voice cracked. The silence rang like glass. Then Kwame, quietly but clearly, we love each other. It's been 3 years. Time stopped. Obasi rose slowly. His face twisted. Pain, rage, and shock contorted it into something barely human. What? We were unfaithful. Adaora sobbed, the words tearing through her crying. I'm sorry. I didn't want this, but you were so cold, and Kwame gave me what you never could. My father! Obasi gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles turned white. My father slept with my wife? Obasi, I said sharply. 3 years! He roared, his face distorted. 3 years, right in front of me, in front of Tayo, in front of you, Mother. Kwame stood with his head bowed. Yes, 3 years. I'm sorry. Obasi lunged at his father. I stepped between them, my heart pounding, but I didn't move aside. Stop! He froze, breathing hard, his hands trembling. Mother, move. I'll kill him. No. I didn't flinch. He betrayed me, betrayed you. I know. And I'll decide what happens next. Obasi stared at me, his eyes wild, filled with pain. You knew? For a week, and I spent that week preparing a plan. A plan? What plan? I took out a folder, handed it to him with shaking hands. Here. Divorce papers, yours and Adaora's, and mine and Kwame's. Everything's ready. Everyone froze. Obasi took the folder with trembling hands, opened it, flipped through the pages. His face grew paler with each one. You're serious? Completely. Sign willingly. Tayo stays with his mother. You provide support, you'll see him on a schedule. Refuse, and it goes to court. You'll lose and be stripped of custody. I have proof of abuse. Obasi sank into a chair, slowly, as if every movement hurt. Mother. It's the only way. I sat across from him, took his hands, cold as stone. You're miserable with Adaora. She's miserable with you. Tayo suffers. Kwame and I. We've been strangers for years. It's time to stop torturing each other. Tears rolled down Obasi's face, the first I'd seen since he was a child. My father betrayed me, he whispered, his voice breaking. Yes, unforgivable, but you betrayed Adaora with your coldness, and she betrayed you with her body. You're even. Obasi covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. I looked around the table. Divorce for all. Truth for all. A new life for all. Tayo stays with Adaora and Kwame, but openly, honestly. I'll leave, and Obasi will find someone who can love him. Obasi lifted his head, his face wet, his voice rough. And if I don't agree? Then war, I said quietly, and everyone loses. Especially Tayo. He stared at me for a long moment, then at Adaora, then at his father. I hate you, he said softly, each word striking like a hammer. Both of you. I know, said Kwame, but I hate you more, Mother. Obasi turned to me, pain burning in his eyes. You knew for a week. You stayed silent. Let me come here. Hope? Think we were still a family? I wanted you to see for yourself. The truth. About them. About yourself. About all of us. He stood, took the folder. I'll sign. Just so I never have to see you again. He turned and went inside. We sat in silence. 2 hours passed on the veranda. Heavy, suffocating silence. Each trapped inside their own pain. Adaora cried into her hands, her shoulders shaking with soundless sobs. Kwame stared into nothing, his eyes empty, like his soul had gone out of him. Effia held my hand while the only warmth left in this cold. "Amara, 50 years." My sister whispered. 50 years of habit. I squeezed her fingers. Love died long ago. The door opened. Obasi came out, his face dry but his eyes red and swollen from crying. He dropped the folder on the table. Signed, all of it. I opened it. My hands, strangely, didn't shake. His signatures were there, though the letters wavered. His hand had trembled as he wrote. "Thank you." "Don't," he said, his voice cracking. "I did it for Tayo, not for you." Obasi turned to Adaora. She flinched under his gaze. "You got what you wanted," he said, nodding at Kwame with disgust. "Him. I hope you're happy." "Obasi, I never wanted—" She sobbed. "Shut up. Don't ever speak to me again. Ever." He turned to Kwame, slowly, and in that slowness was pure menace. "You're no longer my father. As of this moment, we're strangers." "I understand," Kwame said, accepting the sentence. "No." Obasi's twisted smile cut through the silence. "You stole my wife, destroyed my family, and you think I'll forgive you? Never." "I don't expect forgiveness," Kwame said quietly, lowering his head. "Good. Don't expect it." Obasi turned to me. There was such pain in his eyes that I wanted to look away. "Mother, I'm leaving. I won't come back here. Tayo. He'll visit me once a month. Alone. Without them," he said, every word soaked in hatred. "And when he's grown, he'll learn the truth." About his grandfather. He walked to the car. "Obasi!" I cried out. He stopped, didn't turn. "I love you," I said. "You're my son. You'll always be." His shoulders trembled. "I don't love anyone anymore," he said quietly. But I heard it. "You killed that in me." The engine roared. He drove off, vanishing in a cloud of dust. Adaora collapsed to her knees, sobbing, her whole body shaking. Kwame wrapped his arms around her. They cried together. I watched them. Two people who had destroyed everything in the name of love. "Kwame, come here," I said. He came slowly, like a man walking to his own execution. "I've signed," I showed him the papers. "Your turn." "Maybe it's not too late?" he asked, eyes full of pleading. "It's too late," I said firmly, though my heart clenched. "Our marriage is dead. Let's admit it honestly. I'm sorry. I've forgiven you. But I won't stay." He signed, each letter drawn through pain. "What will you do?" he asked. "I'll go to Effia's. Then I'll find my place. Start again. At 75? At 75, I'm free for the first time." I straightened. For 55 years, I belonged to someone. But who was I? Silence. "Now I'll find out." Inside, Tayo was playing, unaware that the world had collapsed. "Grandma!" He ran up and hugged me. I held him tight. "Sweetheart, I'm leaving. Forever. I'll visit, but I'll live somewhere else." "Is it because of the garden?" he asked, serious. My heart twisted. "No, grown-ups make mistakes, and sometimes to fix them we have to change." "Are you mad at Grandpa?" "I'm letting him go." "I love you, Grandma." "I love you too. Always will." I packed my things. Not much. Clothes, photographs. Kwame stood in the doorway. "Amara!" "It's all been said." I closed the suitcase. "No." I turned to him. "You destroyed the lie. Maybe that's for the best. I walked to the window, one last time. Under the baobab, you kiss me for the first time. 50 years ago, and her 3 years ago. I'm sorry. You've said that, and I've forgiven." I lifted the suitcase. "Now live with it." Adaora was in the living room, broken. "Mother." "I'm not angry," I said. "You were searching for love." You found it the wrong way, but you found it. I didn't mean to. The family was broken before you, I sighed. Kwame and I had been strangers for years. You just revealed the truth. What should I do? Love him. Care for Tayo. Be happy. I walked out. Effia waited with the cart. Ready? Yes. I turned. Kwame and Adaora stood in the doorway. Tayo waved. I waved back. We left. The house grew smaller, then disappeared behind the trees. 50 years over. Does it hurt? Effia asked. Yes, but it's light, like dropping a stone I've carried too long. What now? I looked ahead. Now I'll just be Amara. Not a wife, not a mother, not a grandmother. Just myself. Scary? I smiled, genuinely. No, liberating. 3 years have passed. I'm sitting on the veranda of my seaside house, bought with money I earned myself. At 75, I opened a small shop. I sell fabrics and embroidery. The first time I held my own paycheck, I cried over the bills like a child. Beside me sits Joseph, a kind widower I met a year ago in my shop. We take things slowly. We simply enjoy each other's company. Quiet talks and silences where there's no need to pretend. He passes me the newspaper, pointing to an article. I read. Obasi has opened a family support center, providing help for those who don't know how to love. My heart tightens with pride and with pain. My son has found his path, helping others not repeat his mistakes. He's met Maria, a psychologist. She teaches him to feel, slowly, patiently thawing the ice inside him. They have a child now. Obasi is a father again, and this time, they say, he's gentle. 6 months ago, I received a letter. His handwriting, even restrained. Mother, I'm still angry. But I'm beginning to understand. You gave each of us a chance. Maybe one day I'll say, forgive me. Not yet, but someday. That's enough. For now, it's enough. The phone rings. It's Tayo, 17 now. Grandma, I'm coming tomorrow with Mom and Grandpa. Bake an apple pie. I will, my dear. Kwame and Adaora married a year ago, quietly, without guests, under the same baobab tree. They live in my old house now. No lies, no secrets. Tayo grows up between them, happy, loved by both. Sometimes Adaora looks at me with guilt in her eyes, but I just shake my head. Enough guilt. Life's too short. I hang up and watch the sunset. The same as 3 years ago. But now, it doesn't frighten me. It doesn't weigh me down with the years gone by. It promises. What are you thinking about? Joseph kisses my cheek. That sometimes you have to lose everything to find what matters. And what matters? Myself, I say, taking his hand in mine. Wrinkled, old, but alive. The wind from the sea carries the salty scent of freedom. Somewhere on the shore, children laugh. Life goes on. 3 years ago, everything collapsed. My husband betrayed me. My son hated me. My family shattered into pieces. But from those pieces, something new grew. Honesty instead of lies. Freedom instead of a cage. Love, real, without pretense. At 78, I live for myself for the first time, and it's beautiful. Joseph squeezes my hand. I squeeze back. 2 old people who found each other late, but not too late. It's never too late to start again. The sunset paints the sky orange, the color of hope, the color of a new day that will surely come. I close my eyes and smile. Finally, I am home, in myself.